The night my marriage ended, the silence inside my house felt louder than any argument we had ever had. The papers were already signed, the ring was already gone from my finger, and the person I had once promised forever to had walked away as if those years together had meant nothing at all. I remember standing in the middle of the living room, staring at the empty space where our wedding photo had once hung. It felt like someone had quietly erased a chapter of my life while I was still living inside it. I thought the worst part of divorce would be the arguments, the lawyers, the bitter words. But the real pain came afterward, in the quiet moments when the world kept moving while your heart was still trying to understand what had just broken. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change a life, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that even after heartbreak, life still has beautiful surprises waiting. The first few weeks after the divorce were the hardest. Everything felt unfamiliar, even though I was living in the same house, driving the same car, walking the same streets. I would wake up in the morning and forget for a moment that I was alone. Then reality would slowly settle in like cold air creeping through a broken window. Friends tried to comfort me, but most of them didn't know what to say. Some avoided the topic entirely. Others offered advice that sounded more like instructions for surviving a storm than healing a heart. The truth was that I felt like a failure. Not just as a husband, but as a man who believed he could build something lasting. I replayed every memory in my mind, wondering where things had started to fall apart. Was there a moment when I could have done something differently? Was there a conversation that could have saved us? Those questions haunted me in the quiet hours of the night when sleep refused to come. But in the middle of all that darkness, there was one person who never disappeared. Her name was Emily. Emily had been my best friend for almost 10 years. We had met long before my marriage, back when life felt simpler and the future seemed wide open. She had been there for birthdays, celebrations, and even the day I nervously told her I was planning to propose to the woman who later became my wife. Emily had smiled and congratulated me with genuine happiness, even though now I sometimes wondered if there had been emotions she never showed. During my marriage, our friendship had naturally become quieter. Not distant, but respectful. She never crossed boundaries, never interfered, and never tried to insert herself into my life in ways that could cause problems. She was simply there in the background, like a steady light you don't notice until everything else goes dark. After the divorce, Emily was the first person who knocked on my door. She didn't come with speeches or advice. She simply brought coffee and sat with me in silence. At first, I didn't even know what to say. My thoughts were tangled and heavy, like storm clouds that refused to move. But Emily never rushed me. She just listened, sometimes nodding gently, sometimes offering quiet words that felt more comforting than any long lecture could have been. Days slowly turned into weeks. Emily would occasionally check in on me, sometimes inviting me for a walk, sometimes bringing dinner when she knew I hadn't been taking care of myself. She never acted like a savior or someone trying to fix me. She simply treated me like a human being who deserved patience and understanding. One evening, months after the divorce, I realized something strange. For the first time since everything had fallen apart, I had laughed. It wasn't a loud laugh, and it didn't last very long, but it was real. Emily had told a ridiculous story about something that happened at her workplace, and before I could stop myself, I found myself smiling again. In that moment, something inside me shifted slightly, like a frozen door beginning to open. Life didn't suddenly become perfect after that. Healing isn't something that happens overnight. There were still mornings when the loneliness hit me unexpectedly, still nights when old memories tried to pull me back into sadness. But Emily had quietly become a constant presence in my life, reminding me that the world still had warmth in it. Over time, our conversations grew deeper. We talked about dreams, regrets, fears, and the strange ways life sometimes forces us to start over. Emily shared her own struggles too, things she had never spoken about before. I began to realize that everyone carries invisible scars, even the people who appear strong on the outside. Months passed, and the seasons slowly changed. One autumn evening, we were sitting on a park bench watching the sunset paint the sky in soft shades of orange and purple. The air was cool, and the city around us felt calm in a way I hadn't noticed before. I remember thinking how strange life can be. Just months earlier, I had believed everything was over. But somehow, sitting there beside Emily, I felt a quiet sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. It was in that moment that Emily said something that changed everything. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant, as if the words carried a weight she had been holding for a long time. She told me that she had watched me suffer after the divorce, and that seeing someone she cared about go through that pain had been incredibly difficult for her. She said she had always believed I deserved happiness, even when I couldn't see it myself. Then she told me something I never expected. She had loved me for years. Not in a dramatic or possessive way, but in a quiet, patient way that never demanded attention. She had never told me because she respected my marriage and didn't want to interfere with my life. But now, after everything had changed, she didn't want to hide the truth anymore. Her words didn't feel like pressure. They felt like honesty. For a long moment, I didn't know how to respond. My heart was still healing, still cautious after everything that had happened. But there was also something deeply comforting about knowing that someone had cared about me for so long without asking for anything in return. Time passed again. Emily never rushed me for an answer, never pushed me to define what we were becoming. Instead, she continued being the same kind, patient person who had stood beside me during the hardest chapter of my life. And slowly, something beautiful began to grow between us. It wasn't the kind of love that explodes suddenly like fireworks. It was quieter, deeper, built from trust and shared experiences. We learned how to laugh together again, how to support each other through difficult days, and how to appreciate the simple moments that make life meaningful. The pain of my past didn't disappear completely, but it stopped controlling my future. Eventually, I realized something important. My marriage ending had felt like the destruction of my entire world. But sometimes what feels like an ending is actually life-clearing space for something better to grow. Emily hadn't just helped me survive my darkest days. She had helped me rediscover the person I used to be, the person who believed in hope, kindness, and the possibility of happiness. And one evening, standing under a sky full of quiet stars, I finally understood what my heart had been slowly realizing for months. The love I had been searching for hadn't appeared suddenly. It had been standing beside me all along. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to the channel so more people can hear stories that remind us hope is never truly lost. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something important. Please leave a comment below and tell us if you believe that life sometimes gives us another chance at love when we least expect it. Because sometimes the person who helps you rebuild your life becomes the person you want to spend the rest of it with. And sometimes, after the pain of goodbye, life quietly whispers something beautiful. A second chance.